The girl in chains wasn't who she seemed. The rain hit hard on the cold steel roof of the slave transport. Lightning flashed outside the small windows, lighting up the rows of silent, shackled prisoners. Most were dirty, thin, and broken. They kept their heads low, their eyes dull. But one girl sat still, different from the rest. Her name, no one knew it yet, was Zariah. Her hands were chained, like everyone else. Her clothes were torn. Her hair was a mess. But her back was too straight, her eyes too sharp. She didn't shiver like the others. She didn't beg, she watched. A human technician named Jace noticed her the moment the guards pushed the new slaves into the old mining station. He didn't care much about the prisoners. He was just there to fix broken lights and busted pipes. But something about the girl felt off. He told himself to forget it. But later that night, while walking past the storage unit, he saw her again. She was supposed to be asleep, but she wasn't. She was reading, not a book, a star map, hidden in her torn sleeve. Jace blinked. How did a slave girl get a star map? He walked away fast. He didn't want trouble. But that image stayed in his mind. The next day, the guards lined up the new slaves for inspection. They shouted orders, slapped those who moved slow. Most of the prisoners looked down, scared. But not her. The girl didn't flinch when the whip cracked beside her. Her jaw stayed tight. Her eyes didn't lower. Got a tough one here. One of the guards laughed. Maybe she needs to learn her place. Jace watched from the shadows. He clenched his fists. The guard raised his hand again, but another officer stopped him. She's new. Save your energy. They moved on. Later, while fixing a broken water line near the holding area, Jace saw her again. She was helping a young alien boy with a wound on his leg. She wrapped it with cloth, her hands fast, her touch careful. But then she pulled out a small device. Shiny, black, and sleek. Jace gasped. It was an Imperial healing chip. Those weren't allowed here. Only high-level military or royal houses had them. He stepped back, his breath shaky. Who was she? That night, Jace found her sitting alone in the dark corner of the cell block. The others avoided her. Maybe they felt it too, that strange energy around her. He walked up slowly. "Where'd you get that chip?" he asked in a low voice. She didn't answer. "I saw what you did," he whispered. She looked at him finally. Her eyes were sharp, bright gold under the flickering light. "You saw nothing," she said coldly. He smiled a little. "You don't talk like the others." "I'm not like the others," she said, then looked away. "What's your name?" he asked. "What's yours?" she replied. He didn't answer either. But something passed between them. Silence, heavy and strange. He leaned closer. "You don't belong here." Her eyes narrowed. "I'm exactly where I need to be." Jace frowned. "You're hiding." "From who?" She stood up. Taller than he thought. Proud, even in chains. "Go. Away, human. Before you get yourself killed." He wanted to ask more. But the alarm suddenly rang. Red lights flashed. Someone had tried to escape. The guards stormed the hallway, shouting, boots hitting the floor hard. Jace backed away. But before he left, he said one last thing. "You can't hide forever." She looked at him once more. Her mask cracked, just for a second. He saw fear in her eyes. Then it was gone. The next morning, all workers were ordered to the main hall. A new commander was coming. Rumors flew. Someone important. Someone deadly. Jace stood at the edge of the crowd. The girl was there too, shackled, with the rest. Her head down, but Jace couldn't stop staring. Who was she really? And why was he the only one who could see the truth? The mask slips. And so does her name. The silence inside the mining base was never complete. Something always hissed, clanged, or buzzed. But this night was different. It was too quiet. Like the base itself was holding its breath. Jace couldn't sleep. His thoughts kept going back to the girl, ever since he saw that Imperial healing chip. He knew she wasn't a normal slave. And the way she looked at him, like she was used to being obeyed, not questioned. It stayed in his mind like a shadow that refused to fade. He didn't know why he cared. He was just a maintenance worker. He had no rank, no power, and yet he felt pulled toward her, like a magnet to something dangerous. Just before dawn, he made a decision. He would find out who she really was. The slave quarters were locked, but Jace had access codes. His job allowed him to enter restricted zones, for repairs. Tonight he used that privilege for the first time in the wrong way. He slipped through the corridor, past the rusted pipes and leaking vents. Steam hissed from the walls. The air smelled of sweat, metal, and something burnt. She was awake, sitting alone, staring at the wall as if waiting for him. "You again?" she said, without turning her head. "I want to talk," Jace replied. "You shouldn't be here." "I know." He stepped inside, keeping his voice low. "Look, you're not a slave. Not really. I saw the way you acted, the way you speak, the way you move. And you have Imperial training. I saw the healing chip. You knew how to use it." She turned then. Her eyes were sharp, not scared, not angry, just tired. "Why are you asking these questions, human? Do you want a reward? Turn me in. Say my name. Maybe they'll promote you." He frowned. "I don't care about rewards. I care about the truth." She stood up slowly. "Truth is dangerous here," she said. "More dangerous than chains." "Tell me anyway," Jay said, stepping closer. "Who are you?" She didn't answer, not with words. Instead, she pulled something from her sleeve, a small piece of metal, shiny, curved, and marked with a royal seal. Jace's breath caught in his throat. "That's the Imperial crest," he whispered. You're Zariah," she said softly. "Daughter of Emperor Valine. First, blood of the High Line, heir to the celestial throne." She didn't say it with pride. She said it like a curse. Jace took a step back, stunned. "But you disappeared," he said. "The Empire said you were taken by rebels. There was a war. Thousands died looking for you." "They didn't find me," she said, "because I didn't want to be found." He stared at her. "Why? Why would you run?" She turned away, her voice low. "My father tried to force me into a political marriage, to a creature who controls half the outer rim. I said no. He said I didn't have a choice." She looked back at him. "So I made one. You ran. I became what he hated, most a slave, invisible, forgotten, safe." Jace shook his head slowly. "You're not safe anymore." Before she could answer, the base alarm screamed. Red lights flashed. The ground shook. Guards shouted, "All workers to main hall." "Now," Zariah tensed. "They're scanning again." "What do you mean?" Jace asked. "New commander. He's bringing an ident probe. It reads DNA. If I'm scanned, it's over." Panic hit Jace like a wave. "We need to get you out of here." There's nowhere to go, he thought fast. The waste chute. It led to the lower tunnels. He could disable the cameras for 5 minutes. No one checked there. Too toxic. Too forgotten. "Come with me," he said. She hesitated. "You trust me now?" she asked. "No," he said. "But I know if you stay here, you're dead." She nodded once. They ran. Down dark halls, past locked doors, into the stinking heat of the lower levels. Alarms blared above. The ident probe was sweeping the station. Every slave was being scanned. Time was running out. Jace punched in override codes. The waste chute opened. Black steam poured out. "You'll have to crawl," he said. "Hold your breath." Zariah looked at him, eyes fierce. "If I die, it's your fault." "If you live," he replied, "it's yours." She climbed inside, vanished into the dark. Just as the guards turned the corner, Jace stepped in front of the open hatch, acting like he was fixing a panel. "You," a commander barked. "Step aside." "Just a leak," Jace said calmly. "No one comes down here." The commander scanned him. Jace's heart raced, But the scan passed. "Hurry up," the commander said, then left. Jace closed the hatch. He leaned against the wall, heart pounding. She was gone. But safe. For now, what he didn't know was that someone had seen him. A figure in the shadows. Watching. Waiting. And that figure wasn't human. To protect a princess, he must become a traitor. The lights flickered in the maintenance corridor as Jace sat on the cold metal floor, hands shaking. His heart was still racing from what he'd just done. He'd helped the Empire's most wanted, runaway, Princess Zereya, escape an ident scan. If they found out, he wouldn't just lose his job, he'd be executed. Above him, sirens wailed across the station. The new commander had arrived only an hour ago, and already, the base felt different. Colder, stricter, more dangerous. Rumors spread fast. He was a veteran inquisitor, trained to break minds and sniff out traitors. They said he could look into your eyes and know everything. Jace didn't believe in rumors. But this one felt true. He got up and headed back to his work zone. He had to act normal. Casual. As if nothing had happened. But even as he fixed a broken coolant valve, his mind stayed in the lower tunnels, wondering if Zereya made it out alive. She hadn't contacted him. Maybe she never would. In a forgotten tunnel, below the base, Zereya crouched behind a rusted vent wrapped in shadows. The waste chute had burned her skin and the toxic air scratched her throat. But she was alive. She didn't have time to rest. Every second the ident probe stayed active meant danger. But her path wasn't clear. The tunnels were twisted, half-collapsed, and full of hazards. The old escape routes had been sealed long ago. Still, she moved fast, crawling through broken shafts and ducking past flickering sensors. She had trained for worse, but she had never done it alone. Not without her guards. Not without her name. She was just a shadow now, and shadows could still die. Later that night, Jace entered the storage bay to check fuel lines. That's what he told the guards. In truth, he was hoping, just hoping, to find a sign that Zereya had survived. He found more than that. She was there, hidden behind a stack of sealed crates, her body covered in oil and grime, her face bruised. "You look like hell," Jace said quietly. "Good," Zereya replied. "Maybe now they'll stop staring." He knelt beside her. "How long can you stay hidden?" "Not long. The probe is sweeping every hour." He nodded. "I know a way out, but it's not easy." "I don't need easy," she said. "I need possible." He explained his plan. The supply freighter coming in 3 days. Old cargo vessels had blind spots in their scans. If he could smuggle her into one of the crates, she could leave unnoticed. The destination didn't matter. Anywhere was safer than here. Zereya didn't ask why he was helping. She just looked at him for a long time, her golden eyes searching his face. "You risked everything," she said. "You didn't ask me to," he replied. A small smile touched her lips. "Maybe I should have." He stood. "Rest. You'll need your strength." As he turned to leave, she called out, "Jace!" He froze. "Thank you." He nodded and walked away. But someone else had been listening. High above, hidden in the darkness, a silent figure crawled along the ceiling beams, its body long and thin, its eyes glowing faint blue. It had no name, only a function: observer, report, eliminate. The next morning, Jace was called to the command deck. The new commander sat in a high-backed chair cloaked in red armor. His voice was soft but sharp, like a knife sliding into silk. "Technician Jace," he said. "Your access logs show you were in restricted areas last night." Jace stayed calm. "Routine maintenance valve inspections. At 3 separate locations, all near slave routes?" Jace didn't blink. "Leaks spread fast. I follow the noise." The commander leaned forward. "Are you loyal to the Empire?" "Yes, sir." "Would you die for it?" Jace hesitated, then said, "If required." The commander smiled slowly. "Interesting," then waved him away. As Jace walked out, sweat dripping down his back, he knew one thing. They were watching him now. Closely. Deep underground, Xerea found an old terminal, rusted and dying, but still connected to the base grid. She tapped in, a series of codes, her fingers trembling. A hidden message pulsed to life. This is Xerea, first daughter, alive, escaping. She stopped, then deleted it. She couldn't risk it yet. Not until Jace was safe. Not until she knew this wasn't all for nothing. But as she turned to leave, a soft voice spoke from the dark. You shouldn't be here, princess. She spun. A tall figure stepped from the shadows, cloaked in white and gray. Pale skin, silver eyes. Not a human, not a friend. Who are you? Xerea asked, reaching for the hidden blade at her ankle. The figure smiled. A whisper, sent to return you home. Xerea's hand didn't move. Her blood turned cold. You're with my father, she said. The figure bowed. The Emperor grieves for you. Xerea didn't believe it, and neither did the blade she threw at his throat. But he caught it mid-air. I was told not to kill you, the figure said, stepping closer. But if you resist, Xerea ran through the dark tunnels, her breath loud, her heart louder. And far above, Jace heard the alarm trigger in Sector 19. He dropped his tools. No. He ran, not knowing what waited in the dark, not knowing that to save her again, he'd have to become a traitor forever. The Empire sends hunters, and they smell blood. The station felt colder than ever. Even the metal walls seemed afraid. They said he never smiled. They said he never raised his voice. They said he didn't need to. He was an inquisitor. And now, he was here. Commander Zalvin stood tall at the edge of the landing bay, his black robes untouched by the dust in the air. Behind him, soldiers moved in silent precision. His mask covered half his face, but his eyes were exposed. Sharp, pale, inhuman. They glowed softly. Begin the sweep, Zalvin ordered. His voice was calm, almost kind. We will find the traitor. And we will find her. Xerea limped through the lower corridors, her breath ragged, one hand gripping her side. She had escaped the assassin in the tunnels, but not without cost. Her ribs ached. Her leg was bleeding. But the worst part wasn't the pain. It was the fear. The assassin hadn't tried to kill her. He was just watching, testing. Her father had sent a hunter with patience. That meant more were coming. Jace barely made it back to his quarters before the lockdown began. Doors sealed. Alarms echoed through the base. Soldiers checked every level, every system, every shadow. All workers were ordered to remain inside. The message was clear: stay still, say nothing, don't interfere. But Jace was done staying quiet. He reached for the small comm device hidden behind his bunk. He'd built it years ago, never used it. Until now. He tuned it to the deep channel, used by smugglers and ghost freighters. A voice crackled through. Who the hell is this? I need transport, Jace whispered. Off station, fast, dirty, no questions. The voice paused. Expensive. I don't have credits, Jace said, but I have something better. Like, what? The Emperor's daughter? Silence. Then, we'll be there in 20 hours. You better be alive. Xerea found a small maintenance room hidden behind a collapsed shaft. She locked the door and collapsed to the floor. She was losing blood. Fast. The healing chip was dead, used up on the child days ago. She closed her eyes, trying not to panic. She was a princess. She had trained in weapons, languages, command. But they never taught her how to survive alone, without armor, without help, without hope. A knock on the door made her jolt. It's me, said Jace's voice. She opened it, barely. He stepped in quickly and shut it behind him. His eyes widened at the sight of her. You're hurt. I've had worse. You look like you're dying. I've done that too. He smiled weakly, then opened his pack. A medical spray. Stolen. Dangerous to carry. He pressed it gently against her ribs. She winced, then relaxed as the pain eased. "We have a ship coming," Jace said. "But we only get one chance." Zariah nodded. "When?" 20 hours, docking bay 5. Old trash hauler, blind spot under the main crate stack. "What about you?" He didn't answer at first, then said, "I'm going with you." Zariah blinked. "You don't have to." "I know. You'll be hunted." "I know that too." She looked at him quietly. "Why, Jace?" He stared at her. "Because when you showed me who you were, you didn't look like a princess. You looked like someone who didn't want to be alone." She looked away. "I didn't." They sat in silence. Then Zariah said, "Someone's tracking me. Not a soldier, something worse." "Then we don't have much time." Above them, Commander, Salvin moved through the halls with smooth, slow steps. His soldiers followed him like shadows. None dared speak. He stopped at the edge of the corridor, bent down, touched the floor. "Blood. She's still here," he whispered. His pale eyes glowed, brighter. "Find the human?" "The one named Jace." Jace knew they were out of time. He helped Zariah to her feet. She could barely walk, but she moved anyway. "There's another way to the bay," he said. "Through the old ventilation shaft. We'll never fit. We'll have to." They moved slow, crawling through narrow metal tunnels. Every sound echoed loud in their ears. At one turn, Zariah slipped. Jace caught her and froze. Under her sleeve, burned into her skin, was a mark, a royal crest. He stared. "What is that?" Zariah looked at it, her face unreadable. "A tracker," she said, "put there by my father. He said it was for protection." Jace's eyes widened. "They can trace you anywhere." Zariah nodded slowly. "Unless I burn it off." They reached a service room near the bay. Jace pulled out a heated blade. Zariah sat against the wall, jaw clenched. "Do it fast," she said. He hesitated. "This will hurt." "I know." He pressed the blade to her skin. Zariah didn't scream. Not once. Just as they finished, they heard the sound. Boots. Many. Commander Zalvin had arrived. He stopped outside the door. "Open it," he said calmly. Inside, Jace loaded the last piece of equipment into the smuggler crate. Zariah stood beside him, pale but ready. They looked at each other. If the door opened, it was over. Then, an explosion. A blast from the upper hangar. A diversion. The smugglers had arrived early. Jace grabbed Zariah's hand. "Run." Outside, the base was chaos. Alarms blared. Soldiers shouted. Fire rained from above. The smuggler ship hovered low, its guns hot. Jace and Zariah sprinted across the floor, dodging fire. Behind them, Commander Zalvin watched from the shadows. He didn't move. He simply whispered, "Let them go." An officer looked confused. "Sir?" "They'll lead us to the rebellion." He smiled. "And to her true power. She faces death alone." "But he returns with fire." The ship shook violently as it broke through the upper atmosphere of the mining moon. Alarm screamed. Metal groaned. But neither Jace nor Zariah spoke. They had made it aboard. Barely. Zariah sat against the wall of the cargo hold, clutching her side, her face pale. Jace knelt beside her, checking the seals on the crate that had hidden them from scanners. "You're bleeding again," he said. "I'll live," she replied, voice thin but steady. Outside the ship's thick walls, chaos still raged. The smuggler, pilot shouted over the comm, dodging Imperial fire as the ship cut through the sky. Jace tightened his grip on the crate's frame. "You trust this crew?" Zariah asked. "Not even a little," he answered. "But we didn't have a choice." She smiled faintly, despite the pain. "You're learning fast, Jace." An hour later, the ship jumped to light speed and silence fell. For a moment it felt like safety. For a moment, then the door opened. A tall man with cybernetic eyes stepped inside. He wore no uniform, only a long coat and a smirk that told Jace one thing. This man sold lives for a living. "So," the man said, "you're the one who called me." "We had a deal," Jace said quickly. No scans, no questions. And, in return, the smuggler said, eyes flicking to Zaraya, you offered me something special. He pulled out a small device and tossed it to Jace. Guess what, friend, I did scan you. Jace froze. The device glowed. A profile appeared. Zaraya of the first bloodline. Royal. High-value target. Bounty active. You're insane, Jace growled. You'll bring the entire empire after you. Only if I miss the bounty, the smuggler said. And then he drew his blaster. Zaraya tried to rise, but she was too weak. Jace stepped in front of her. Take one more step, Jace said, and you'll find out how much damage a human wrench can do to your ship's reactor. The smuggler laughed. Then Jace threw something. A small spark grenade. Homemade. Unstable. It exploded in a flash of white. Chaos broke out. Jace tackled the smuggler, slamming his shoulder into the man's chest. The blaster went flying. Zaraya, barely conscious, crawled toward it. The smuggler punched Jace hard, sending him into a wall. Blood spilled from his lip. He lunged again, but this time, Zaraya pulled the trigger. The shot hit the smuggler in the chest. He fell back, coughing. You lied, he gasped. So did you, she said, cold and royal again. He died with the shock still frozen on his face. They dragged his body into a side chamber. Jace sat down hard, breathing fast. I'm sorry, he said. I thought we were safe. Zaraya shook her head. You saved me. Again. Barely. Enough. She leaned back, her golden eyes watching him. You should have left me. Back on the station. You could have walked away. I know, Jace said softly. So why didn't you? He looked at her, eyes tired but full of something new. Because you looked at me like I mattered. Not like a tool. Not like a number. Like a person. Zaraya blinked. Then she whispered, No one's ever said that to me. Later, as Jace repaired the ship's damaged stabilizer, the comm crackled to life. A voice broke through. Cold. Smooth. Inhuman. This is Inquisitor Zalvin. To the ship currently carrying subject Zaraya, your path is known. Your choices are few. Jace froze. Surrender the girl, Zalvin continued. Or be destroyed. You have 1 hour. Zaraya stepped into the room, still weak but standing tall. He's tracking us? Jace nodded slowly. We must have been marked. Zaraya opened a small panel in her arm. The mark Jace had burned away was gone, but beneath it was another. A deeper code, she said. Embedded in my blood. Can you shut it off? I can try. She pulled out a blade. Jace grabbed her wrist. You don't have to do this. If I don't, she said, you'll die for me. I already would, Jace whispered. She looked at him. Then, she handed him the blade. Do it. I trust you. Jace hesitated, then began. Carefully, he cut around the embedded code node. It sparked once. Blood dripped. Zaraya clenched her jaw, silent. Then, the signal stopped. The comm went quiet. You did it, Jace said. Zaraya smiled, pale but proud. You've got good hands. He laughed, half from relief, half from fear. Then alarms blared again. A ship had followed them. Not just any ship, the Inquisitor's personal cruiser. And it was closing fast. Jace ran to the controls. Zaraya stumbled to the co-pilot's seat. We can't outrun it, Jace said. Zaraya nodded. Then we don't. We fight? No, she said. We trick. She reached into the smuggler's dead jacket and pulled out a stolen Imperial code chip. We're going to bluff our way through. What if they call it? Zaraya looked at him, her face calm. Then we die. Jace stared at her, then grinned. You're insane. You're still here. Together, they activated the ship's comms. This is Imperial Cargo Unit 47, Zaraya said, voice royal and cold. Standing down for inspection. The Inquisitor's ship slowed. Identify yourself. Princess Zaraya, she said clearly. First bloodline. And if you fire, you will answer to my father." Silence. Then, "Understood," said Zalvin. The ship backed away, for now. But as they jumped to light speed again, Jace knew something was wrong. The Inquisitor had let them go. On purpose. Siraya leaned back. Why would he do that? Jace didn't know. But deep, in his gut, he felt the truth. They weren't running anymore. They were being led. The dead ship wakes for its princess, the stars stretched across the void like rivers of cold fire. Siraya sat in silence, staring through the glass of the cockpit, her hands trembling slightly. Jace had never seen her like this. Not afraid. Not angry. Just quiet. "We lost them," he said gently, watching the nav screen. "We're out of their range." Siraya didn't respond. Her thoughts were far from the stars. They were buried deep, in memories, in pain, in a promise made long ago. "There's a place," she said finally. "A ship. Not just any ship." "What kind?" "A relic. Old Imperial tech, hidden before the fall of the first colonies. My father showed it to me once when I was a child." She looked at him, eyes glowing softly in the dark. "It listens only to blood." They landed on a dying moon. No cities, no life, just rocks and wind and an ancient forgotten sky. Jace stared at the emptiness. "You sure it's here?" Siraya walked ahead without answering. Her steps were slow, careful, like every footstep woke something buried beneath. The wind howled around them. Jace followed closely, scanning the surface. Then, his device blinked. Metal. Deep below the rock. Siraya stopped. She knelt, pressed her hand to the cracked ground. Nothing happened, until she spoke. "Arhil." One word. A name lost to time. The ground shook. The dust swirled into the air. Deep grinding sound rose from below as ancient gears moved. Stone split. Firelight poured through widening cracks. And from beneath the surface, a ship rose, massive, black as night, shaped like a dagger pointed at the sky. Jace stared, mouth open. "It's real," he whispered. Siraya stood tall, the wind whipping through her hair. "She remembers me." They stepped inside through a ramp that lowered without a sound. The ship's walls were smooth, silver black, humming with ancient power. Lights flickered to life, sensing Siraya's presence. The air was warm, breathable, untouched for centuries. They reached the control chamber. The room glowed red and a deep voice spoke from nowhere. "Identify." Siraya raised her hand. "Siraya, daughter of Valine, first blood of the High Line." A pause. Then, "Accepted." The room lit up completely. A star map appeared before them. Planets, paths, battles lost and hidden. And at the Yayage center of it all, a red symbol, the Empire's current fleet route. Jace stepped back, stunned. "This ship, it still has data on the Empire." Siraya nodded. "It was a war-class vessel, one of the last AI-bonded dreadnoughts." "Why didn't they use it?" "Because it only answers to the bloodline, and my father feared what it might become in the wrong hands." She turned toward the center console. "But now, it's in mine." The ship, Ariel, began scanning space. And then, it spoke again. "Threat detected. Imperial beacon approaching. Signature Inquisitor Zalvin." Jace's heart dropped. "How?" "We cut the tracker." Siraya stepped forward. He never needed one. He followed the signal from the ship itself. "He wanted me to come here." "Why?" Siraya looked up at the glowing walls. "To awaken it. He couldn't control it, but he knew I could." Jace's face tightened. "He used you?" "No," Siraya said. "He tested me." "Incoming vessel. 1 hour until breach." Siraya looked at Jace. "Then we prepare." They moved quickly. Siraya learned the ship's layout. It was vast, full, of sealed weapon bays, hidden command decks, and old fighter drones asleep in their cradles. Jace worked on the engines. They were massive, ancient, but still pulsing with power. He found something strange in the core, a backup AI. But this one was different. When Jace touched the panel, the screen lit up with a strange human-like face. "Hello, technician. What are you?" "I am Ariel's heart. You're not the same voice from before." "No, that was the outer shell. I am the inner mind, built to protect the bloodline, no matter the cost." Jace hesitated. "And if the bloodline falls, then all enemies burn." He stepped back slowly. "You're not just a ship," he whispered. "No, I'm a promise of revenge." An hour later, Xalvan's cruiser appeared above the moon. It hovered in silence, weapons ready. Inside Arheel, Xariah stood on the bridge. Now dressed in ancient battle robes, she found inside the ship's vault. The AI's voice spoke calmly. "Enemy, range breached. Shall we destroy?" Xariah shook her head. "Not yet." "They'll fire first," Jace warned. "Then we show them what we are," she replied, and she raised her hand. Weapons primed. Outside, Xalvan stood on the bridge of his own vessel, watching Arheel glow like a waking god. "So," he whispered, "the princess rises at last." His officer turned. "Orders?" He smiled slowly. "Fire everything." The sky lit up. But before the missiles reached the surface, Xariah whispered, "Return to sender." Arheel opened its wings. 100 cannons unfolded from the hull. Each one locked to the missiles, and with a single blast they turned back. Xalvan's ship took the full impact of its own fire. Flames erupted across the sky, but the Inquisitor still stood, alive and smiling. "She's ready," he said. "The galaxy won't survive her." As the flames died down, Arheel stood unharmed. Xariah looked at Jace. "We can run now," he said. "The path's open." She shook her head. "No, we don't run anymore." "What then?" "We fight, not just to survive, but to free the others still chained." Her voice grew stronger. "To tear down what my father built." Jace looked at her. "And me?" She stepped closer. "You're the first who saw me, really saw me. Not a title, not a name." She reached out. "Stand with me." Jace took her hand. The stars above burned brighter than ever, but in the deep dark of space, other empires watched, other rulers whispered, and a war long forgotten was about to return. A slave no more. She claims the stars. HFY Sci-Fi story space was no longer quiet. Comms across the galaxy were flooded with a name, one not heard in years. Xariah. Rumors flew like fire. She's alive. She commands an ancient warship. She destroyed an Inquisitor's fleet with one word. And a human stands beside her. On every border, people began to whisper. Slaves dared to hope. Soldiers hesitated before pulling the trigger. And, deep inside a war-class ship born of old empires, Xariah prepared to break everything her father once ruled. In the command hall of Arheel, she stood like a flame. Taller now, stronger. Armored in dark metal, golden eyes focused on the war map, glowing before her. Behind her, Jace studied the star charts, tired but focused. 5 major Empire fleets are moving, he said. Your father's locking down the core systems. Xariah nodded. We won't hit the core first. We strike where his reach is weakest. The border worlds? No, she said, pointing. The broken moons. The forgotten ones. Jace understood. The places her father used for mining, testing, and leaving people behind. You want them to rise? No, Xariah said. I want them to remember they still can. Across the next days, they moved like shadows. Arheel traveled between dead systems, waking old allies, freeing hidden outposts, reactivating ancient tech thought lost forever. At Xariah's side, Jace helped build a network, smugglers, outcasts, and former slaves. No flags, no oaths. Only one mission, break the Empire. But as they grew stronger, so did the resistance. A shadow followed them. The Inquisitor. Zalvin had survived the blast. His cruiser was damaged, his forces wounded, but his will, unbroken, and now he had orders. Bring her back alive. The human, optional. On the 7th day, a signal came from a prison moon called Kolvex, the same kind of place Soraya once escaped. They're killing prisoners, Jace said, watching the report. Public executions. They're using it to bait you. Soraya's face darkened. Then the bait worked. It's a trap, Jace warned. I know. You go in there, you might not come back out. Soraya turned to him. Jace, if I fall, you run. Not a chance. You can't stop this war by dying beside me. He stepped forward, jaw tight. I didn't follow you for war. I followed you because you made me feel alive. Because you believed I was more than just a worker. And now I believe you're more than a name. A pause. So whatever happens, I stay. Soraya stared at him. For a moment, the warrior mask slipped. Then she whispered, Thank you. They arrived at Kolvex during eclipse. The sky was half dark, half flame. The Empire's forces stood ready, ships surrounding the station. At the center of the arena, a platform Soraya's blood had been used to power a false code luring her in, and atop the walls Zalvin waited. She will come, he said. And she did. Arheel dropped into orbit like a god. Its wings unfolded. Its cannons hummed, but it did not fire. Soraya stepped out alone, walking into the arena with her head held high. No chains, no mask, no fear. The soldiers raised their weapons. Jace watched from the ship, heart pounding. What are you doing? He whispered. This wasn't the plan. But then, Soraya raised her voice. Loud, clear, defiant. I was once a slave in your cages. Now I stand free. And if you shoot me now, know this. My name will become your death sentence. No one fired. She turned to Zalvin. You wanted me. Here I am. Zalvin stepped forward slowly. Your father still wishes to forgive. He never knew how, she said. Then die like the traitor you are. He lifted his hand. And then, Jace overrode the ship's command. Arheel roared to life. Dozens of drones launched from its belly, descending like stars. They slammed into the ground between Soraya and the firing squad, forming a wall. The first rebellion had begun. The battle was fast and brutal. Soldiers turned on each other, some loyal to the Empire, others breaking free after hearing Soraya's words. Jace fought in the smoke side by side with rebels he didn't know, protecting the one person who changed everything. Soraya faced Zalvin alone, swords clashing in the dust. You are powerful, Zalvin hissed. But power isn't loyalty. Soraya struck him hard. No, she said. It's choice. And with one final blow, she ended him. The Empire's grip shattered on Kolvex. Other systems followed. The rebellion spread faster than the Empire could stop it, and at the center of it all was a woman once seen as a slave, a woman whose name now echoed across systems, Soraya. But she didn't rule. She chose not to wear a crown. Instead, she passed leadership to the freed worlds, letting them build a new future, and when asked what she wanted, she looked at Jace and simply said, Peace. Some say they vanished into deep space. Some say they still fly aboard Arheel, helping where they're needed most. But the galaxy remembers one thing. One human saw the truth when no one else did. And that changed everything. Forever.